Hello and welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles and I'm recording this under a sheet in a hotel room in Italy where we are filming the docu-TV series at the moment. So I've been up a mountain all day, putting up tents, getting stuff ready. It's been fun. But this room is echoey as anything echoey as you can possibly imagine, and it's probably echoey even though I'm still under a duvet. And I'm incredibly tired, but we're getting stuff done, and that's what it's about, and that's what this podcast is about. It's about you going out there and getting stuff done, and hopefully learning from what people say on this podcast, learning how to go out there and make films and try not to make the same mistakes we made when we made our films. So this week we have on award-winning director and Emmy-nominated producer and founder of Tello Films, Christin Baker. Some of the films, TV series she has made include I Hate Tommy Finch, The Throwaways, the Bridget McManus comedy special, Riley Para, Better Angels, Season of Love, I Hate New Year's, A League of Our Own, and Christmas at the Ranch. Christin also won Best Director at the London Raindance Film Festival for her work for Maybelle, a series that follows the story of a 35-year-old gay woman in the South after the death of her mother. And over the last 4 years, she has made 5 features on SAG Ultra Low Budgets. And she had a lovely chat with me all about how she makes her films and distribution, and why she set up her own distribution platform called Tello Films, which, as she talks about on the podcast, is a very niche streaming platform specifically targeted at LGBTQ+ women's content. Now, she set this up because there really wasn't anything like this around, and she wanted to tap into that audience, which has become incredibly successful and is the first LGBTQ network to receive an Emmy nomination. The SVOD platform has a wide library of the best LGBTQ+ women's titles and thousands of paid subscribers. Suppose the majority of their $1 million revenue goes back to the filmmakers, enabling them to make more shows. We talk about that on the podcast, and why you should do shorts to start a career, how you find investors, crowdfunding. We talk about turning a web series into a feature. We also talk about distribution scams and the importance of a good poster. We also dive into making a feature film, what directing's like for her, making LGBTQ+ films, plus directing style, the importance of shot lists, and should filmmakers like yourselves create your own streaming platform. There's so much. You're going to love this episode. I had such a lovely chat with Christin. Yeah, we also talk about predatory distributors as well. So there is so much for you to learn from this week's episode with Christin. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, whether it's week in, week out, or whether you just drop in. Really, really do appreciate it. If you do like this, tell your pals. That's how we grow. It's so important. And if you're feeling nice, just jump on the socials and say, hey, listen to this week's episode. It was a classic. Tag us all in. We'll retweet it. And we might even give you a shout out love as well. So why not do that and support us? Speaking of support, all those who have watched The Stranger in Our Bed or Wolves of War in the last couple of weeks, or listened to last week's episodes, obviously we had our special on The Stranger in Our Bed, and last week we had our special on the making of Wolves of War. I directed both of those. If you didn't know, I'm sure you do if you listen to this regularly. Apologies for the double whammy me promotion. Sort of apology, not really, because that's what I wanted to set this up for, to let you lot know that we're not just hosts, we're filmmakers as well, and we make movies. So whenever one of our movies comes out, we want to tell you about it and how we did it. And that includes next week's episode with Dom Lemoir, because he produced When the Screaming Starts, of which the director Connor Burrow will be joining myself and Dom Lemoir to chat about how they made When the Screaming Starts. Can't wait. That's going to be fun as hell. And for all of those who have given us so much love for The Stranger in Our Bed and Wolves of War on the socials, please keep it up. If you have watched them or you have listened to the podcast, do please reach out on our socials. It really does mean a lot to us. And why not go onto the IMDb or Amazon and just give it a nice rating. It really does make a massive difference. And the main reason for that is we need to support indie film, because there are some trolls out there, and we've seen it, where they'll just go on IMDb and give everything 1 star. And nothing any indie filmmaker does is 1 star. And these people are just, they're just not nice people. Who goes out the way to do that? Doesn't matter what you think of the film, it's just mean. People work hard on indie films and people care and they bust their asses. So you, as part of our movement of indie filmmakers, and that's what we are and that's what we're trying to do, and support, then you need to do the same. So go on the socials and go on wherever you can review, rate, and do it. Be nice. It does make a difference. Obviously be honest as well. That doesn't hurt. But we do need to support each other much more and try and kick out these people who are trying to bring down indie filmmakers. I don't know why, they just do. So, that aside, remember there is so much bonus content from both those episodes of Stranger in Our Bed and Wolves of War specials on our Patreon. If you want more of that, if you want more behind the scenes, there is loads. We've recorded for ages on some of those things, and our lovely editor Toby has put together even more bonus content for you about how we made those films. Plus there's loads of stuff on there. Link to that is in the show notes, but it's Patreon/The Filmmakers Podcast. Right, enough of that. Let's get to today's episode with Christin Baker, creator, owner of Tello Films, and fantastic director in her own right. Here it is. Enjoy. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
You didn't start off in filmmaking, did you? Your journey was quite different. Yeah. How did you get into it in the first place?
Well, I did actually move to LA in my early 20s out of high school. And I sort of did more of the studio route. So I worked very briefly for Regency Productions in their story department. So I learned all about coverage, script coverage, and like how that impacts and still does, you know, how scripts are read, how they're considered. And then I went to work for the Writers Guild of America, and I worked in the TV credits department. And then I worked in membership and TV credits department. And that was also amazing, of like how a writing credits determined what happens when someone rewrites and, you know, the arbitration process. And so I learned just a ton about, you know, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but I learned a lot about like the legal rights of lawyers. And then I just got sort of burned out and actually moved from LA, went into nonprofit work for like, 13 years, but still doing filmmaking on the side. Like still, like I just couldn't shake this horrible bug of like wanting to tell stories.
You made shorts to begin with, and I think it's a great route in. How did you find that process of going, okay, I want to move to being a filmmaker. I want to go back to my dream and the bug that's inside me.
Well, I knew that I needed to, if I was going to continue to grow my business. So I had, in making digital or short form series, I had 3 Emmy nominations. I had worked with some amazing people, and I still could not get the press or recognition from sort of the Hollywood or that sort of like mainstream press. And I realized that, and I just want to point out, I could have told Jeffrey Katzenberg this before he spent billions of dollars on Quibi. I was like, dude, short form is not the way to go. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what stars you have. There is still not enough respect for short form digital content. And I do understand why, to a certain extent, because there's so much. And so how are press people going to cover it? But I just realized if I don't do a feature, Tello's not going to get recognized. I'm not going to be recognized as a filmmaker nearly the way you do when you can do a feature. I also, though, knew I needed to figure out equity financing. I needed to figure out how to take investors, how to set the company up. And so my focus in 2018 was to figure this out. And so I was really lucky. I had 2 people mentor me. I asked a ton of questions. I figured out how to set up the LLCs the way I needed to. And then I was also really lucky because, I'd done a ton of crowdfunding. And that's where I started with my investors, was anyone who had given $500 or more to one of my crowdfundings. I went specifically and asked them if they would be willing or interested to invest in my movie. And the minimum was $5,000. And some said yes and some said no, but I was able to cobble together enough people who said yes to make my first feature. And I still needed crowdfunding because I couldn't do it all. So, and on that one, I did it in tandem. I did the crowdfunding and I had people who gave to be investors, like I did it all at the same time. And so I was able to raise enough in the first feature to be able to fund it and then release it. And in addition to that, you all kind of talked about your sophomore movie, right? Like your second movie. Mm. I was very, 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 very lucky and fortunate and like blessed, whatever word you want to use, that my first movie made a good chunk of change when it was released. Enough that I went back to my investors and said, would you like to roll your investment into my next movie?
Perfect.
And I had 80% said yes. So there I am for my next one, like kind of ready to go. And then I was doing a crowdfunding campaign for that one as well, which did not go as well. But we launched it like during the pandemic. So, because we launched it we launched it while we were filming it, but some of it ran into the pandemic. And so we really just, I was like, we're not going to ask for any money now. Because our movie, again, I keep going back to Dan's podcast because I just listened to it. He shot during the pandemic, but got shut down. We got shut down we didn't get shut down. We finished literally, our wrap date was March 14th.
Wow.
2 days later, everyone shut down. Mm-hmm. So we were lucky to get in right before the pandemic shut us down. So I've just been really lucky that I've had investors roll their money into the next project. And I've had new investors who rolled, and my films have made enough to at least be able to put that date, on the calendar to say, this is when we're going. Mm-hmm. Are you in or are you out?
Yeah.
So
that's fantastic.
That's kind of how I've been able to do it. And then, and I will say crowdfunding is a wonderful way to unearth those supporters who have a little bit more money or expend, income that, they can put into. Now, a lot of them can't do it every time, but crowdfunding is a wonderful way to kind of find those people who can support you in a more meaningful way. You just have to be able to ask for it. And that can be really hard because then you'll get the dreaded no. And that we don't like hearing that word. No,
it's really hard. And I think people frightened of crowdfunding because you're putting yourself out there to say, hey, give me money, handout type thing. And I remember backing away from it for such a long time going, no, I don't want to do it. But yet I was always putting into other people's. And I never thought, oh, look at them with their handout. Not once. But yet when I thought I'm going to do it, I felt like I was going handout. And then when I did it, it was like, oh, okay, it's hard work. It's like a full-time job, but you can do it. And like you say, those supporters will be with you for life. They're investing in you, really. I mean, some friends are just sticking money in and some people are, but those people who are putting, like you say, more than 500 in are investing in you for life. And you look after them and they'll probably put into your next one. Jumping back a little bit for me, it was Riley Parra, your first feature, is that right?
Well, interestingly enough, Riley Parra was originally a web series.
Right. Okay.
That we did 2 seasons, and that one I had 2 actresses get nominated for a daytime Emmy for that one. Mm-hmm. And then I was trying to figure out distribution. I was like, I need to figure this out. It's a crazy world of like weirdness. I'd gone to the Cannes Film Festival a couple times, so I actually hired someone to cut Riley Parra together as a feature.
I see. Okay.
So it was sort of one of those features that I did over time. And I thought, well, this actually kind of cuts together as a movie because not a lot of time had passed between season 1 and season 2. Mm. So it is both a web series, put it together as a feature. And we did some editing, like some scenes that I didn't really like or I didn't think went well. In season 1, we just pulled them out. We were able to get them out. I was like, well, that's gone. That disappeared. Okay, cool. And so then I took that to the Berlin Film Festival as a pitch. And I had like a 1-pager and a sizzle reel. And I ended up getting a distribution company. And so then I went through all the like QC process and, all the stuff that comes with like
you have to do. It's a lot.
Which was like, and I kept telling myself, you're learning. This is a learning process. You've never done this before because it's that part of filmmaking that is like not the creative part, right? Like it's the part that we try and avoid, but it's necessary.
Yeah, well, you can't put your film out. You know, distributors won't take your film if you haven't done all the deliverables. And I'm doing them at the moment for 3 Day Millionaire. And these deliverables just go on forever. And it's stuff, and it's more stuff, and it's filling out this form and this, and you've got to do it all. And it's all legal, and it's all done properly. And you've got to do it to protect yourself as well. For one thing, errors and omissions insurance, you know, it's so important. All these things that you should be doing way before, not when you're delivering the film itself. But it happens. We're independent filmmakers, like you say, we're learning and we get better. But on web series, I remember being in Kate Modern and Lonely Girl 15 back when I was acting.
Oh yes,
and they were big shows. We were BAFTA nominated.
Those were huge. Oh my God, Kate Modern was like epic.
Oh right, I was Steve in that show. I was like the Steve guy who was,
oh my gosh,
yeah, I was him. I was creepy Steve for a while, and then he became not creepy anymore and became nice Steve. So I was in that, and then we crossed over and I went over on to Lonely Girl 15, and I remember thinking, this is going to be amazing. You know, we were breaking out as like the first web series type shows, and everyone was talking about it, but it never really went anywhere. It was huge on Bebo. Do you remember Bebo? Bebo was a thing.
Oh gosh, Lord, yeah.
Bebo was like a channel, wasn't it? Like an online channel. And we had like 5 million hits an episode. And they're like,
oh, y'all were huge.
5 minutes an episode. And like these ridiculous numbers. And then it all moved over to YouTube because Bebo died. And it died too. And I remember being really sad. It was just kind of this, everyone put so much effort in, but there was no reward. There was nothing happened. It didn't go anywhere. Yeah. It just collapsed. So web series are a wonderful way to start things, but they don't seem to go. It's that thing, isn't it? It's great to make something and put it out, but the making money back is really tough. It's not easy.
It's a short film. It's just like a short film.
Yeah, basically.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. And we were able to like fill Tello content with web series for a little while. Like that's how I was able to like, oh, okay, we're going to launch one new piece of content when we were exclusive. It was like one new piece of original content a week, which was really hard. But if I could string out something like a Riley Para that was a feature and chop it up and like put it out, it was like, okay, I'm fulfilling, like, you know, I'm feeding the beast on my very, very humble, tiny little budget. But yeah, you just can't get, you know, in order to get recognized, you need people to watch it, spread it on social, and you need press to review it. And press just is like, nope, you know, unless you. Yeah,
and they see it as a kind of student-y thing, and I don't know why it shouldn't, because some of them are so well made and so well done. You know, there's so many of these kind of Star Wars ones, or there's Rebecca Gold was done, and there's so many of these really cool sort of dramas, and they just get, you know, it's really hard to get that recognition. So I really like what you did. You went, okay, well, for me to make money on this, for me to move forward, you're like, okay, I'll turn this into a feature. And brilliant, you know, to get Riley Para turned into a feature and made money.
I never actually got any money from my distributor. So
that sounds standard, sadly.
It's so sad. But I learned, I was like, okay, this is not a good path. And I had like I've seen crazy posters of the movie in Russia, in Germany, and, you know, all over the place. And I'm just like, and they have yet, like, I think I have to force them to send me, like, could you please send me like some kind of notification as how it's doing, and you don't get anything. And you're like, well, it sold in Brazil for $2,000. It sold in, you know, Russia for $500, and you just don't see any of it. Now, the good news is I had already made my money back on Riley because it was on Tello under subscription. So for me, I wasn't a filmmaker. I was very, very lucky that I wasn't a filmmaker who had investors to
pay back as such. Yeah.
To pay back or explain or go, I'm so sorry. Here's, you know.
Because it was crowdfunded.
Look, you can find us on demand. Yeah. I was like, you can find us on demand, but that's it. We have no money. And this poster that has a helicopter in it has nothing to do with the movie because we don't have a helicopter in it. You know, it's like stuff like that. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, that's not a viable route.
Can I just ask you, what do you think did you think you did anything wrong with a distributor when you signed that? Was there anything you could have done differently now looking back?
From my understanding, from, again, what I've heard from people who have done podcasts like this one, that's pretty standard, is they have a high marketing fee that you have to reach. They're redoing your poster. They're selling it. You're just not getting. And I didn't have like major. I had some Star Trek people who were in it, but not a huge like A-list name. So I don't know. From my understanding, the contract was pretty standard. I can't remember when I get it back, like in 5 years or something. And I had an 18-month out that I, just didn't really pay attention to. So, and the thing too is like, it still sits on Tello, makes a little bit of money on Tello, but I don't know that I could have done anything, to be honest with you. It sounds like that was a pretty standard indie movie distribution deal.
Mm-hmm. And like you say, you got it out there and you could say that, but luckily you had Tello. Perfect time to talk about that then. So you set it up for your web series and your shorts and things like that, but then suddenly it became a really interesting platform, and you always went with the LGBTQ angle. If I'm correct, I believe you always did that.
Specifically lesbian and queer women,
films.
Not the whole letter, not all the letters, just a few of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's hyper niche.
Hyper niche, even so. Yeah, absolutely. So you were like, look, this is the channel. This is what it's for. It is for lesbian and queer, you say, films?
Queer women, just because I don't want to leave out the bisexual, pansexual, people who identify as queer, non-binary. So I try and I usually try and say like lesbian and queer women, just to be all encompassing.
Got you. Yes. And I suppose when you started it, there wasn't all the letters in a row like that anyway. So
no, we would say lesbian. Yeah. We would just be like lesbian and bi or something like that. Films. So just, trying to be all inclusive.
Yes. And what you did by that is you were very niche. And that is huge in this business. If you're niche and you tackle that market, well, that's where your audience is going to go. They're going to go, well, I want to watch one of these films. I know, I'll go to Tello because that is exactly what I'm going to get. So you literally cornered that market, right, and did it brilliantly well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, great. How was it actually setting up something like that? Was there any pitfalls? Was there problems? Was the issues with you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, talk us through that, because people want to do it all the time, set up something like this.
I effed up so many times, it's incredible. I don't know if we can curse on the podcast.
You can.
Okay. Yeah, no, I made a lot of fuck ups on that one. So here's the thing though, when I started Tello, it was at the same time that Hulu was putting up a paywall and Netflix was releasing House of Cards. So Tello is like one of the oldest streaming platforms out there that's still around. We've seen a ton of them like come and go, and even more now like that have started up again. And so there always is sort of this wave of like, oh, let's do this. Oh, let's start the streaming platform. But we've been around from the early days when it wasn't as easy. It is so much easier now to start a streaming service, because when we were starting, we were having trouble finding a payment platform that could do reoccurring payments. So we had to go with a very, very clunky PayPal. And then PayPal had all these rules that was like, you couldn't increase the subscription amount more than 20%. Well, we were charging $3.99 a month.
Right.
I was like, I would like to now charge $4.99. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean I can't do that? Like, that's crazy. And then we realized we wanted to get a better CRM and a better reoccurring payment processor, and PayPal wouldn't release our subscribers to this other PCI compliant site. So I was livid, but we had to move to a different platform. And I was just like, I'm never, ever using PayPal ever again.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So now we're on a Vimeo platform, and they said, well, we're thinking about using PayPal. And I was like, let me just make sure they will release the subscribers, not to me. Like, I don't want the subscribers' credit card information. No. They were releasing it to another PCI compliant one. Anyway, but we were having to build it ourselves. So, and I had no money. So I'm very, very lucky that I had a very good friend who's like basically my work husband, who could build and design websites. And we just slowly tried to make it as user-friendly as possible, without Netflix and Hulu money. And so then we went into, so we were existing on that. We did figure out the recurring payments. That was a game changer. And then all the apps started. And that's wicked expensive as well. But then around that same time, we had to build everything from scratch. That's just turnkey now. But so now we're on a Vimeo platform that does OTT and builds apps. So, we did research, we interviewed some companies and ended up going with Vimeo. And so now anyone can contact Vimeo or any of the, places and can say, hey, this is what we want. Here's and they go, great, here's the template. We'll build out this. You need a little bit more money to start it up, but.
So you're saying it would be much easier now to start up something like this, a streaming platform?
100%. 100%. Because we weren't kind of fumbling around in the dark, like we were having to build the button where you could click it and it says, do you want to watch the next one in the series?
Yes.
But that's all turnkey now. So we were having to try and figure that out where I would have to literally go point oh, here's the next one in the series. And then we have to build the button to take it to the next one. And so, yeah. And analytics, are much easier on Vimeo they have a great dash. They have, not that this is a Vimeo commercial because I'm sure they all do, but we were trying to guess, so many things back then and cobble together that is, here it is on a dashboard. You can figure out which one's the most watched and blah, blah, blah,
Yes. Yeah, which is so useful to you to know what works and what, because I imagine that any of us, when we're clicking on something to watch, it's all about the poster and maybe about the log line. We might watch the trailer, but it's usually about the poster. If the poster looks cool, we like the look of it, or there's someone in it we like, we literally click on it. That is what we do as consumers. That's it. This because that's what you do. So getting the right poster is so important for filmmakers when on any platform. Doesn't matter how good your film is, or if the poster's not good enough, no one's going to click on it. That's just fact. Hence why yours had helicopters in it or whatever, because someone goes, they'll click on it.
Right. Exactly. They'll click on it. Well, and that's why too, Netflix, and I don't know if anyone else is doing this, but I've noticed Netflix will have 4 images for the same movie. Depending on who you are, is the image that they'll serve up. And I'm every time I go in and I'm oh, Peaky Blinders, which I have not watched, I'll notice the image that they have for me is a female. And then I'll click into it and the other image that they have is of a male. And I'm oh, you cheeky bastards, you know how to get me. So it's, so there's that kind of thing as well that, again, Vimeo doesn't have that, but I know my audience, they want 2 chicks kissing usually is what they want in the poster, 2 hot chicks, something like that. So, but for something like a Netflix, that image that they serve up, they'll try and match to the best of their ability, the algorithm of what you watch,
what you like and what you want. That's so clever, isn't it? They know what they're doing. They're spending so much money on it. So it's fascinating. It really is.
Data. Yeah.
Data. Absolutely. So now that you've already got distribution for your own films, which must it must have been incredible to sort of go, oh, hang on, I don't have to go through this whole rigmarole necessarily of selling it around the world. If I don't want to, I can just put it up on Tello. I already have a distribution company. Did that really help then getting Season of Love? Obviously, you mentioned anyway, it was kind of some of your crowdfunders that you moved forward into the next film and you just managed to piece it together. Did you find though that you could say, but we're going to put it on this platform which is specifically for lesbian women?
Yeah, that was a absolute no-brainer for the first one, because I knew going the distributor route was not the way to go. So what I wanted to figure out was, what is the correct route to get the best ROI for my investors? Because as a filmmaker, you have, in my mind, and some people might disagree. So, but for me, when I pitch my movie, I want to do 2 things. I want to make a great movie for my community. I want to tell stories about my community, and I want my investors to get their money back. In that order, those are the 2 most important things. And so I never go into a movie or a project without going, will this get money back for my investors? What's the ROI on this? So I've had 3 years now and 3 different distribution models to figure out, and I'm still tinkering with it, to be honest with you. What's the best ROI? is it going straight to Tello? Is it, looking at other avenues? Because like one of my films, we ended up, I Hate New Year's, going on Tello and through an aggregator and going, okay, because you think, well, if I'm on Amazon and iTunes and all the places, I'm going to get more people. Instead of getting 10,000 people to watch it in the month of December, I'll get 100,000 people and I'll probably make more money and these great things will happen and blah, blah, blah. That did not happen. If I had 100,000 people watching it, I did not see the return on investment for it. So now I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I made more money with I Hate New Year's renting or buying it on Tello than I did going wide. And I had person after person telling me, nah, you're wrong. Like, you'll make more money going through an aggregator on these. And I was like, nope, that's not right. Okay, scratch that off the list. So then now we have Christmas at the Ranch. And one of the things that we're looking at doing right now is, what are our international sale opportunity, which we've never really done before. And I have a sales agent who's fantastic, who I absolutely trust, who, is working on. So with Christmas at the Ranch, we released it on Tello in December of this past December. What was that? 2021. Getting my years mixed up. We released it December 2021, and then we pulled it because I was like, I have to get money back for my investors, and I can't wait another year. And my sales agent was kind enough to go, okay, fine, release it, get all the money that you can, and then we're going to go to Cannes and we're going to sell it internationally as a new movie, because we got no press internationally. Now we got great domestic press, which really helped, and it had all these other implications for our subscriber numbers. Because even if we release something on rent or buy, we always see subscriber number increase. So that's another piece of the puzzle that we can see that's different than just like, hey, I'm an indie filmmaker, I'm going out wide. But now I'm going, okay, let me try this salesperson to see what happens if we do an international push. Can we see the ROI? Can we see another 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 through MGs through different countries?
Yeah.
I have no idea. That's something that we're looking at testing right now. And she is selling, and I know we've had a couple of international companies want to buy it and distribute it. And then we'll be able to see, okay, and they're offering a small MG. And then it'll be, okay, how much are we making in these international markets? Like, is it doing well year over year? Like, so I can see what it does on Tello. What's it going to do over here? And now we have Mary and Gay, and we're trying to get, that's coming out this holiday season. Okay. And we're trying to shop it, have a big domestic streamer to pick it up. And we think we'll be able to, but we're not sure. So we'll see. Yeah. And then hopefully going on Tello as well.
See, that's super exciting because, like you say, you can put it on Tello for a bit. It's just exclusive for your audience. That's great. They like that. And then you can go, yeah, it's not out anywhere, guys. Go put it out somewhere. Let's see what happens. What a great model. And if it doesn't work, you've put in your contracts, I imagine, after 18 months, we take it back, or however long you want to put in there. And then you put it back on Tello.
Exactly.
But I imagine, can people in Russia and people in Spain get Tello as well, right? They can get Tello.
They can. Yeah. They can. It's not subtitled and it's not dubbed over. So I still feel like it's still not, even though it's available English language only with subtitles or with captions, excuse me. So it's still technically like they're going to take it and put, Russian subtitles in there, or I don't think they're dubbing it over, but maybe they could do that too. Yeah. So I still feel that it's had a huge distribution, which helps us be able to go internationally over there.
Yeah. And like I say, you can get up to 40, 50 MG, you can sometimes, or, the return on that, as long as you're getting money back. If you're going, well, look, the territories we weren't going to sell anyway, and there's a chance to get some money back for my investors here. Exactly. And we don't have to worry about it ever again. It's going to get pirated anyway in Russia and Spain. And it's these places, it's just how it works. It's probably already been pirated. And that's what's so horrible as indie filmmakers, that people still do this, and you're kind of like, oh God, how are we supposed to make our next film, guys? Do you not care? No, all right, well, I thought I'd support you by watching it on you're like, but no, it doesn't really work that way, does it? Not for me.
The one that kills me is when people like for a couple of my movies, people would like put together a fan video and then someone in the comments would go, "This is great. Where can I see it for free?" And so like as often as possible, I try and go in, and the people who are like, "No, you need to buy it." Like I've seen a couple of people like, "You can buy it here. I don't know where it's for free." And, you know, I'm hoping people are like scared of the torrent sites and like,
yes,
you know, cause they get a, you know, or I hope those people who go to those sites get horribly infected with their computer, because that's karma. Yeah. And like, F you guys for like not being cool.
Totally. I agree. And it's almost like now people expect things for free. They go, "Oh, cool, I'll download that for free." It's like a given that they go, "No, hang on, people have spent time and effort doing this shit." And you're just going, "Oh, I just torrented it somewhere." And you're like, but don't you see you're causing the problem? Let's go back a little bit to you directing then. Let's talk about you actually being on set and how that felt for you, you know, with after Riley Parra and then, you know, making Season of Love. And you're now making a feature. It's an actual feature. You're not doing a web series where you don't necessarily know where it's going to go, what's going to happen, who's going to watch. You're making a feature where it's a specific audience and it could go wide, it could play wide. How was that for you then to step into that? Talk us through the actual money side and setting it up and getting your cast and doing it all like you would. Obviously, you've done it before, but now it's a feature. Talk us through that.
First and most important thing is to find a script that you love. And so I was really lucky that a writer named Kat Trammell sent Season of Love.
Oh, she just sent it cold as well. Like
we did have. Well, I met Kat at a shooting a project that I directed called Passage.
Okay.
And I was like, and I had said like, "Hey, we're going to have a contest. Like Tello's going to have a pitch to production contest for a holiday rom-com. You should submit if you have an idea." She was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so we actually went out as a contest, because the big thing that would always happen during the holiday season is someone would say, "There are no LGBTQ holiday rom-coms." Oh, here's one, but it's an ensemble. There hadn't been, before Season of Love, there hadn't been an LGBTQ, male or female, holiday rom-com released where the lead couple was an LGBTQ storyline.
Wow.
So we're the first that ever came out in 2019.
What?
That was a holiday rom-com. Yes. And because we're so tight, that what had happened was, and I've gone on a Twitter war with someone who was like, "That's not true." And I'm like, "Yes, it is." There was a short and there was a holiday movie. It was not a rom-com. It was an ensemble holiday movie that had, you know, LGBTQ leads, but not that sort of hallmarky, quintessential, you know, girl falls for girl loses girl gets girl in the end. There was nothing like that was out until Season of Love.
Amazing.
In 2019. But because we didn't have a huge budget for press, you know, we were like, and we were really lucky that an actor named Dom Provochakli was in it and had a huge fan base.
Right.
And so their fan base really helped lift up the movie and got a ton. So our social presence was incredible, but our press presence, you know, we didn't get the press that we get now because I have an amazing publicist. But the thing about holiday rom-coms is you will always with LGBTQ, usually be in a list of what LGBTQ holiday rom-coms are coming out. And so we get national press, which I didn't realize at the time. But anyway, back to your question. So we had an amazing script, and I had a fantastic casting director. So we cast a few people that we knew that we liked. It was very important for us to have diversity. So we have 3 couples in Season of Love. Each couple has a woman of color in it. So we really tried to make it as diverse as possible. Our other goal was like to really try and cast queer identifying women. So we really tried to focus on all of those things. And I shot it in LA because I had the crew here. I'd shot everything in LA up until that point, and I have an amazing crew. So I was like, okay, we're going to shoot this here in LA. And we went through SAG paperwork, which can be,
yeah, really difficult.
SAG is fun.
Luckily in the UK, we hardly ever have to deal with it unless one of our actors, which it happened on 3 Day Millionaire, lived in America. It meant suddenly there was a SAG issue. So there's ways around it in a good way. There are ways to make it work, but you then still have to pay the SAG, right? You can't get around that, and that adds to your budget. There's no budget you didn't expect to pay.
Totally.
It's really frustrating.
Totally.
But at that point, had you, obviously you're casting now, at this point, had you raised all the funds? So you were in a position where you'd, obviously the people, some of your crowdfunders had put some money in, but and like you say, you knew your budget was small.
I had some of the money by then. So I had gone out and we set up, I set up Season of Love LLC. So set up a company, set it up so that 25% of the ownership were subscribers. Were investors. So, and depending on the amount you invested in that 25% was how you were paid out. So the waterfall went deferred payment. The investors got 120% of their investment back. Then the second part of the waterfall was the investors received, we split it into 3 groups. So this what we called tier 2, after the investors got paid back their 120%, 25% went back to the investors, 50% went to our creative people who had points on the back end, our creative pool, we called them pools. Then the third one went to a producer pool. So the producers all waived our fee.
Wow.
And we were part of the back end. So I waived my director fee. I waived all the producers waived their producer fee. So we wouldn't get paid. I take that back. I did get some deferred payment when it came out. Okay. So then it went to the waterfall. So we deferred payment. So that's how we set up the company. I'm trying to think by the time we were shooting in May, we launched a crowdfunding campaign, like maybe mid-March to mid-April. I like to run a 30-day campaign because I think a 60-day you want to shoot yourself in the head.
Oh yeah, 60 days too long. Yeah, even 3 weeks is better.
60 days way too long.
Yeah, 60 is crazy.
Yeah, so we did a 30-day campaign. We ended up raising around $65,000 on the crowdfunding.
Well done.
Which was amazing. Wow. Once we announced Dom PC, like the crowdfunding just went through the roof.
Because she was in Avengers Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah, and she was in a very popular TV show on Sci-Fi called Winona Earp.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so, and we also had, Jessica Clarke, who was an amazing out LGBTQ actress, had fantastic fan base from a movie she did called A Perfect Ending. So, we had some like people who were known in the community that was very helpful. But yeah, once we signed on Dom, it was like, we had it. And so with those funds, we were then able to go into production, and I created a budget. I think it was, we were SAG Ultra Low, it's a $250,000 budget, and just really like begged, borrowed, and stole, and just squeezed the lemon as much as possible to make it, because we had multiple locations. Shooting in LA is also expensive because the permits are expensive, workman's comp, the insurance that we have to get is much higher. SAG requires a holding fee, which is like, as an indie project, that holding fee can just absolutely kill you.
Yes.
And then you're counting on that holding fee for your post because you don't have a contingent. I mean, people are like, what's your contingency? I was like, there's no contingency.
Yeah, there isn't one.
I have a $250,000 budget. Like, come on.
Yeah.
My contingency is like a packet of gum. Like that, So
some loo roll.
everything that you can goes into it. So like, and so you're fighting to get that back as soon as possible and get all the things that SAG needs and pay into their pension and health, which then, again, you have fringes, you have pension health, that's popping your budget way up and doing the paperwork 3 times. And, I have 4 different hats that I'm wearing, but we were able to, I have a very, very like hard rule in my head that I do not go beyond a 12-hour day. There was one day in the last 3 years, I've gone into one 14-hour day, and it broke my heart. But like, I just, I have a DP that I've worked with for 5 years. He's amazing.
Yeah, David Chung, right?
David Chung, he's phenomenal. And we just have a shorthand now that we can get a ridiculous amount of pages in a day. So I know that I have to get a minimum of 7 pages in a day. And, the actors know that, they come ready. Like, I just have a really amazing team. I call them my film family.
Yeah, totally.
And, some people have come and gone.
And some people go high. Yeah, that's it. They get snapped up, and others don't work out.
Exactly. And you're just like, but But, I have people who have come back over and over again who I just am so lucky and absolutely adore. But the next movie I did move to Nashville, and I've started, that's kind of where I've been doing production now for the last 3 years. So I Hate New Year's, Christmas at the Ranch, Marrying Gay, and my 2 Scare B&Bs were all shot around the Nashville area.
And your directing style then, how do you like to work with the actors? What have you learned over the time, things that work or don't work, or working with your crew? That'd be interesting.
I will say, every time I direct a new movie, I become a better director. I'm able to, really understand how to work with the actors, how to get across what I'm asking for. And then I also tend to bring the same actors back. And so I have a shorthand with my DP, David. For example, I love working with actors. I love the moments, those acting moments. And David is just such an artist that he really knows the way the shot should be set up, the way it, look. I'm making sure everyone looks the way they should. But David really is here's where, here's the frame, here's the this. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. So I really trust him implicitly. And so much so that on this past shoot that we just wrapped on, we were far away. I was at Video Village and he was up by the camera. And he turned to me and he yelled, he said, Christin, can I give Marvin a note? And I yelled back, I said, yes, I have the same note. Now we hadn't talked about the note. And sure enough, on the next take, David said something. I don't know what he said to him. He had to spin into his line. So he had his back turned and he spinned and he did exactly what I wanted. Yeah,
it shows that David understands what you want as a filmmaker. You know what I mean? He understands your vision, and that is vital when you're filmmaking. There's nothing worse than having that clashing of a DP and a director. It's just the worst. You have to be on the same page. You have to trust each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we implicitly and if I don't like something, and I'll just say David, I don't like that. And then he kind of knows what I'm looking for. I've actually said one of my favorite actresses to work with is an actress named Dia Frampton. And there was she was doing something on Marrying Gay. And I looked at the frame and I just said, I'm in the next room. I go, Dia, I don't like that. And she flipped and and I said, that's it. That's good. So when you have that kind of shorthand where it's I'm doing this. Oh, no, I know what I'm doing that Christin doesn't like. I mean, I've even said to my makeup, I said to an actor one time, I looked at him and I said, I need more makeup on your eyes. Tell Pam she knows what I want. So the actor literally went back to my makeup person and said, Christin wants you to do something different with my eyes. She said, you'll know what she wants. And Pam goes, yep, hang on, sit down. And sure enough, when the actor came back out, I was like, yep, that's what I want. That's why we're efficient. We love each other. We're moving quickly. My chief lighting technician, Gaffer, absolutely loves and adores my DP. They get along really well. So it's there's just someone described it as a basketball team. The way we move, because again, we have to move fast. Because I don't have a budget that doesn't allow us to move quickly. When you can create a shorthand like that, and it's you don't have to, I don't have to sit there and explain to Pam, my makeup person, what I want. Pam's worked with me for 5 years. She knows exactly what I want. So when someone goes back and is Christin said she's yep, have a seat. Let me fix it.
Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely. I love that description of basketball team. That's absolutely right. You're all playing down the field together the court together to put the basket in, the ball in the basket. And then the same, you're all defending at the same time. You're putting out the fires. You're trying to do stuff together. I love that analogy. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you storyboard and shot list?
We shot list. We don't storyboard. We shot list extensively. So my DP and I are usually on a call for about 9 hours. It ends up being 9 hours. We go through every single bit of the script. I've scouted the location because he's in LA. I'm in Nashville. I've taken extensive video or photos, and we go through and and that's where we actually do a lot of rewriting too.
Yes.
It's amazing how much of the script we adjust based on location and based on wait a minute, hang on, why would they say that? No, they would say this, or we need this to happen. And so we actually do quite a bit of rewriting as we're going through the shot list, but we do an extensive shot list that does sometimes change. If we see something in this past shoot, we had a wide and it looked so good and the performance was so good. I turned to David and I go, I think this is a oneer. And he goes, yeah, we have coverage listed, but I'm super happy with this. I was like, me too. So we just scrapped the rest of it where we were going to go in for coverage, but it works so well.
Didn't need it. Yeah.
Didn't need it.
The magic of those moments is incredible that you can share with your DP, your production designer, or, your actors, where you've just got that moment where you're thinking, God, we've got a lot of coverage to do. And we've got 30 minutes. How are we going to cover the scene? And something magical happens. Well, actually, if we just get them to stand there, or we just move the scene just outside, we can do this in a moving master. And that just comes into a close-up, or it turns into a two-shot. It turns into something. And then we might just need an insert shot, and we've got the scene. We can cut away to it if we need to. And that's clever filmmaking. That's thinking outside the box and not being rigid with, no, we must do it this way. And that makes good directors and filmmakers, right? You're not rigid.
No, not at all. We're super, super fluid in the moment. And I think you had mentioned, I can't remember if it was you or one of the other podcast hosts, but you all kind of talked about how beautiful a longer scene can be as well, and how powerful it is not having to cut into it. And if you have those moments and you know it, why are you jumping in and throwing us out of the scene when it sits really, really well? So I kind of like those oneers as well, because I think it really creates some beautiful moments of connection.
And it's also trusting yourself. I remember saying to my DP Andrew Roger on the day, we had this shot of a kid running out the house, quite a long run into a big close-up with a tear down his face. He can't now leave where he should be leaving, and he has to stop and go back because he's too frightened. And we did the shot a few times. The kid nailed it every time. And I went to Andrew. I said, I'm worried it's too long. Should we just put in a close-up? Should we do another shot? And he went, no, you said this is what we wanted. It is brilliant. Trust the process of what we were doing and just let it be. Yeah. I went, all right. And it's amazing. Of course, and I think the worry is if you do have that footage, a producer or an exec might go, it's a bit long that. Have you got any other coverage? There is other coverage. Great. Stick it in. And that ruins what you actually intended to do. And sometimes sticking with your guns and your gut and your feeling on set is more important. And going with it. It's like, all right, I might have messed up. Maybe I should have got an insert, but I didn't. I'm going with it. And that's the power of a director and producer and cinematographer, is to say, this is what we're sticking with because this is what we got. So all your films like Christmas at the Ranch, I Hate New York, New Year's, sorry, and Season of Love, they're not all on Tello at the moment, are they?
Season of Love and I Hate New Year's, they are part of a subscription. They're also available to rent or buy if people don't want to get a subscription to the site. So those two are Riley Para, that we've kind of talked about a little bit, is also available for rent or buy, and it's also part of the subscription. Christmas at the Ranch, at the moment, we've pulled to, see where else we might be able to get distribution, see if we can make a little bit more money back for the investors.
Why is it called Telefilms, by the way?
Television online.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And people can find that at telofilms.com.
We also have apps in the app stores, so you can find us on Roku, Google Play, Apple TV.
Would you suggest, if people wanted to set up their own streaming platform, would you suggest to do it? Is that something filmmakers should do?
That's such a good question. I honestly, I don't know. I probably would say, because, we also license content on Tello, and that's a whole other bugaboo of time and money and contracts. And so I would encourage people to do Patreon and make content and put it up, because I think it interfaces with either YouTube or Vimeo. I honestly, I don't know exactly how it works, but I know you can give people access to things either early or, so I think that's probably the return on investment and return on time is probably better if you have a Patreon. In fact, I know someone who does a series called Drunk Lesbians Watch, and she ended up putting the longer episodes behind a Patreon page. So people who subscribe to the Patreon at a certain level get to see her projects. And I think that's a really wonderful way to go that doesn't have it's expensive. It's at least, depending on the tier that you're at, minimum, you're talking about, $8,000 a quarter to have a Vimeo site, and you're having to make new content constantly. So I think Patreon is probably a better way to go for filmmakers, or continuing to do like crowdfunding campaigns. So that would be and that's not because I'm thinking people are going to give more competition, but any stretch of it. If you want to start a streaming platform, go for it. Tell the stories, tell all your stories, go do it.
Yeah, I'm the same with, if you want to start a podcast on filmmaking, do it, it's whatever.
Do it. Like we need more stories. We need, people to get out there and make more content, especially for our community. But I do think Patreon's probably a better way to go that doesn't pull as much of your time.
What about in terms of distributing your own films? Because obviously it's been brilliant for you because you have that platform to distribute. Now, I'm not saying set up your own streaming platform to do that, but in terms of distributing films yourself, it has worked for you. And there is that conversation people are having all the time. Should we distribute our own films, like ourselves, put it on Amazon ourselves, do all the work ourselves, or should we give it to an aggregator or a distributor to do that for us? I
was listening to another filmmaking podcast, and one of those filmmakers had gone the distribution route and had the same story I did, didn't get any money, ended up putting it on Vimeo for rent or buy on their own and pushing people towards that, and had actually made some money that a sales agent or an aggregator distributor was not able to take from them. So she was like, look, so I would say there's no harm in starting there and putting something up for rent or buy on Vimeo, and if you still can on Amazon. I don't know the percentage that Amazon takes anymore. Yeah,
they've changed now. It's not great.
Yeah, but why not start there? Like, why not start and see if you can get people to pay you, where you can get the biggest ROI on a Vimeo rent or buy, and then, do other things, or try and use an aggregator. That would be my start, I would stay away from sales agents. I really would. I just don't think there's actually a Facebook page called something like predatory.
Yeah, beware of predator distributors and aggregators. Yeah, Alex Ferrari set that up. It's really good.
Yeah. I think it's really good. And I think you just get screwed.
Yeah.
I have not heard one story in any filmmaking podcast where someone's like, you know what? They were amazing. They were just like fantastic. I made so much money. I don't know what other people are talking about. Every time you turn around, they're like, I don't know.
And often it's because the filmmaker didn't look at the contract properly or understand the contract properly, and therefore there's too much in there that gives benefit to the distributor. And at the end of the day, it is a business, and the distributor or aggregator, they're trying to make money. And if filmmakers aren't aware enough to check the contracts out or go properly, this is the most important part. And it's really important to be on top of it. So that's why a lot of filmmakers get burnt. But I've had some success. The Horror Collective were great.
That's good to know.
But I know so many who haven't, and it's a fight. And even then, sometimes it's a fight to get your money. So I totally get it. Yep. I understand.
I would just like you said, like I have a sales agent right now who I really, really trust. There are good ones out there. I don't want to poo-poo them, but like, do due diligence, check out the Facebook page, ask people about it.
Yeah.
Because and you can find good people who can give you an ROI. I think I've heard, you gotta kind of do your own legwork around it. And I'm hoping, I don't know, did you go to Cannes this past one?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you, people were like, no one's buying, or there's no MGs. It was from my understanding from the people that I knew, and it sounds like you kind of heard the same thing. Like no one was willing to buy it at Cannes.
No.
They were all like, we'll take a look after.
Absolutely. I think the buzz was, I think it was the first time everyone had been allowed to be in a space like that for a while as well in terms of the COVID situation. But what we found was the talk was incredible. The buzz was like, yeah, and they want my film and they want my film. There was so much of that, but no one was actually putting their money where their mouth is. No one was coming back going, hey, I just got 300 grand or I got 30 grand. We got some offers, interestingly, actual direct offers from just a trailer, which was incredible. But whether they've given us the money and signed it there and then, I don't know, so it was mixed for me. I definitely say it was very positive, this Cannes, and I can't wait to go again next year. But I've heard, in the past, there was a lot more positivity. Not positivity, it's the wrong word. There's a lot more negativity, but not more sales. This time it seems to be so much positivity, but less sales. So, I mean... sales. Yeah, but I don't know. It's like it's like that with most markets these days. No one knows what's happening, and the streamers weren't there at Cannes. No streamers were there at Cannes, and that was a big problem because they would probably bought a lot of stuff, whereas distributors didn't have the money.
Tubi was there. We took a meeting with Tubi, but they weren't offering any MGs. They were sort of again like at this point, like it's the MGs have gone way down. Sales to foreign has gone way down. So it's, I think someone said about every 3 to 5 years, the industry goes through a change and a flux. And I feel like that's where we are at the moment. I think they just did a sales call, and it was like, what was it? Peacock is losing $500 million this past quarter. They're going to lose $2.5 billion over the year. Another streamer, I can't remember which one, was lost like $1 billion. Like all these streamers are just like losing.
Yep, so many are going to drop. So many are going to just drop out, or they'll be bought out.
What's going to happen? You know what I mean?
Well, because they certainly don't want our films. That's the thing. They've got enough films, or there certainly will be. It's kind of a case of they can't afford to buy your films right now. So some can, but it's being in with the right people, and there's a lot of us that can was very proof of that.
I wonder, because I feel like the streamers are not, in my mind, I feel like it would be smarter for them to spend almost like less money on these massive $200 million movies and go, okay, here's our cap. Now let's go out and see what these plucky little indie filmmakers have been able to make and offer them $2 million for their film they made for 1.5 and we'll buy them out, or we'll take it for 10 years. And like, there's none of that thought. And I'm like, there's some indie filmmakers out there who are making great content that they're like trying to push through a wall where like, Netflix was buying stuff for even $300,000.
Yeah, it was.
Not anymore. It's like $7,000 now for like a little indie movie. And
it's just not worth it. Why would we? Because now when it's on Netflix, it's free. Everyone goes, "Oh, I'm watching it on Netflix." They will not buy your movie. Why would they? It's on Netflix. And if it comes off Netflix and you have to buy it, they're like, "Oh, how annoying! Why? I wanted it from my Netflix."
Exactly.
So it doesn't help us as filmmakers. They just get annoyed with us, and you're like, "Oh, but we have to make money. How?"
I know.
You know what I mean? We didn't do all this just for for free, so you could watch a movie for free. That's not what happens here.
Right. Yeah.
What about it's just because you're buying movies in, right, as well? You're putting offers into people, right?
Yeah, we license. Yeah. We license and then do a rev share.
Right, you do a rev share. Okay, cool. So no MGs.
We do. Some. Okay, it just depends. Yeah. So we'll come in with like, again, depending on the territory, depending on, there's a lot of factors depending on how old it is. But, we'll go up to the highest we've ever done is a $2,000 MG. So we'll do anywhere. I've done a $100 MG for like a really old movie that's been around the block up to $2,000, and then rev share on top of that.
That's great. That really works. And it's obviously just queer and lesbian women films, right? Yeah. Amazing. So if you have any, do get in touch with Christin. Why not?
Yeah. We have a little contact form on the website. So
perfect.
Hit us up.
Link to that will be in the show notes. Finally, then, some advice on directors coming up, wanting to make a film right now. What do you wish someone had told you? Don't do it.
I know. Have the passion. You do have to learn the business side. So like, learn how to ask people for money. Even if it's through a crowdfunding campaign, do something to, I think Dan's number was like 10 to 15,000 that he did in crowdfunding. Mine is about, 20K is what I'll kind of put. I know that's something that I can raise. And then through that, you can find investors who really want to support your storytelling. And so, I would say that's the thing that I knew I could make. I knew I could run a good set. I knew I could make a great, high quality, low cost movie. I just didn't know how to get the money. And as you know, for filmmakers, that is the hardest thing.
That's what stops us.
I would also say figure out if you don't have a trust fund or you didn't win the lottery and you can't, $1 million is hard to come by, figure out how you can make your movie for 100, 150,000, something that's like more doable, because you can adjust locations, you can adjust the number of characters you have. Like there are some ways that you can figure out budget wise, like what locations do you have? Like Dan mentioned, he had like 2 free locations. That was incredible. Like, so what free locations do you have that you can adjust and like try and make it for, again, if you don't have someone who's going to give you $1 million, what do you absolutely need to make the movie and get out there and make it, figure out how, and not what you want, what do you need? And then go from there.
Love it. As Christin says, you can do this. You can go out there and make your film. You can do it. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday, as always. This has been amazing. Christin Baker, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Giles. Happy to be on the podcast. It's an amazing podcast. So thank you for encouraging others to tell their stories. It's so important.
Bless you. And yes, it so is. Absolutely is. All links to everything we've talked about will be in the show notes. Do go to tellofilms.com, check it out, check out what Christin's doing, and try and do it the same. Get your stuff done and be proactive. Get out there and do it. All right, take care everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.
The Filmmakers Podcast is kept going by your generous support. To hear some bonus content from today's episode and future content, subscribe to our Patreon.